What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the Fight Maniac Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all of you that are out there watching. As always, if you want to support your boy, all you got to do is hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment. Let me know how you guys are feeling after UFC 310 over there in Las Vegas, Nevada. Originally, it was supposed to be headlined by Belal Muhammad against Shavkat Rakhmonov for the welterweight strap for the championship of the world. Obviously, Belal ended up getting injured. Therefore, he had to step down and stepped up Ian Machado Gary, who, I've always been a little bit critical of Ian in the past, especially against when he fought MVP. I really think that he just wasn't as good as he was making himself to be. Like, he was super cocky. But hey, now after this weekend, I kind of like him a little more. I'll talk about it here in a second. So that ended up being the co-main event. What I thought would have happened, honestly, and it should have happened, is they should have made this fight for the interim. I think that would have made it way more interesting. Now you get to say that you have two belts and this one card. And then, no matter what happens, now the fight for the actual belt, to unify the belts, now you can build more hype around it because you can say, it's two champs, interim versus undisputed. I don't know why they didn't make it an interim belt. Honestly, if you think that's a good idea, let me know down in the comments. But hey, I wouldn't mind it, and obviously it just creates more hype overall. But hey, I wasn't mad at all when I saw this fight as a replacement. Ian, especially because he's a guy that, in my opinion, he's yet to test himself before this fight. After this fight, obviously now I think we can all agree that Ian can hang. Ian can definitely hang with the top boys. He's definitely a top 3 fighter. I don't know if he's the best in that division right now. I wouldn't say that, but sorry, I just heard sirens. He's definitely not the best in the division right now, but he's still young too, man. He still has a long way to go. For him personally, like, what I want to see is him to lose some of that cockiness, and you kind of saw it in this weekend. In this fight, even after the fight, he was always super respectful to Shavkat, and I like that. Against MVP, he was saying that he won the fight, obviously, on paper, but he just got super cocky, saying that he dominated. I don't really think it was a domination at all. I think that was a very close fight. A lot of people gave it to MVP, including myself. It wasn't a robbery or anything. It was just, it could have gone either way, and it was tough to call. But I just want him to lose some of that cockiness because you can see it's kind of fake. And obviously, he's been under fire for a lot of different reasons involving his wife. And, I'm not even going to get into all of that, but it's hilarious. But I was very intrigued by this fight, even more so than the main event. The main event, honestly, I was just meh. It was whatever. I was excited that we had a new guy making his UFC debut in Kai Asakura and fighting for the belt in his very, very first UFC debut fight. I thought that was super interesting. I can just break it down here in a little bit and then move on. But Pantoja, that guy did a fantastic job. And I think Pantoja, these lower weight classes, sometimes I think fly under the radar a little while. I think Pantoja is maybe not as popular as someone like that's kind of above him, like a Sean O'Malley or like a Ilya Topuria now, Alex Volkanovski. Like, I don't think he really deserves... he doesn't really get a lot of the credit he deserves, popularity-wise. He's probably huge in his country, in Brazil, obviously, but as far as the U.S. market, the international market, I don't think Pantoja has really tapped into that, and he has, he has impressive wins, Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, and he's 100% deserving of the belt, and he's a champ through and through. What is that, 3 title defenses now? That's fucking impressive. When he first beat Moreno, the very first fight, when he won the belt, I thought it was extremely close. I thought Moreno was kind of robbed, so I don't know, take that with whatever you want, but, starting from there, I think I would have liked to see maybe a rematch, although Moreno has insane rematches, so I don't think we wanted to throw him back into another fucking trilogy, or something like that. I think that guy had to chill out on that. But hey, he won the belt fair and square, and then has to move on to fucking defend it in really great fashion. I was really impressed with the Steve Erceg fight. I thought Steve Erceg had a fantastic shot at winning the belt, but it didn't happen. Interested call out for Pantoja, calling out Demetrius Johnson, which, if you know, he's regarded by many as one of the GOATs. A lot of people say, like including Joe Rogan, Dana White, they say, John Jones, Demetrius Johnson. That's what they say. They don't even put, he's on many people's list. He's on top of Khabib and all those guys. I think, it's like John Jones, Demetrius Johnson. I'll say like GSP, Anderson Silva. That's kind of my list that I lean towards. But yeah, he called them out. I thought it was super interesting. We got a pretty immediate response from Demetrius Johnson through his social media that he wasn't going to come out of retirement to fight. I thought that was interesting, especially because I think he fought not too long ago, right? And he was fighting in one championship. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that he gets called out and he immediately shuts it down. I think it's funny. I think, many people would have entertained that fight. Someone like a Conor McGregor, obviously, or, anybody else, I think would have at least milked the moment and at least entertain, a hint, even if it's not real, just entertain it a little bit, let the people run with it, let the podcasts and the news come out on Monday and Tuesday and wonder, are we going to get a comeback from Demetrius Johnson, that's what I would have done, but DR has his reasons, Mighty Mouse, and yeah, I respect it. I respect the fact that he immediately, like without hesitation, says no. Like that's kind of crazy. Shout out to that guy. I mean, the things he's accomplished too. I mean, he is. It's kind of similar to John Jones. Like these guys are not. They don't owe nobody nothing, bro. They really don't. They did their thing. They had their moments and they had their legacy already. Like why taint it? Why go out there and possibly lose and get embarrassed? And now that's when people are gonna remember you by, because again, you're only as good a lot of the times as your as your last fight. So I mean that's kind of unusual. That's kind of unfortunate. But I thought it was a good fight overall. Obviously Pantoja getting the sub round 2. Very impressive submission. You know what I mean? Just immediately they scramble, they go to the floor, and he applies the pressure, and he ends up getting obviously the submission via guillotine. So, via rear naked choke. So, shout out to Pantoja, man. He's kind of cleared that division. There's really not nobody else for him, really. I mean, other than doesn't really deserve it, but I would say Kai Kara France. That's really about it in my opinion. So moving on to the co-main, we obviously had Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Gary. Again, I thought this should have been for the interim, but whatever. I thought this was a very, very competitive fight, and a lot of casuals hate this. A lot of casuals hate the fact that when you get two guys undefeated like this, in such a high caliber, when it comes to the being technicians, a lot of the times these fights don't end up the way people think. I myself was expecting a finish. Yeah, my prediction was a submission by Shavkat, possibly like a round 2, round 3. But hey, Ian held his own, and like I already said, Ian proved to us that he was able to hang with the top 3 guys, with the top dogs. Because before this, he hasn't really proved that. Like, he had wins against people that are not super well known, obviously lower in the rankings. He had his most impressive win was probably MVP, but then MVP was just freshly new to the UFC. Probably Neil Magny was another good one, but I think sorry, not Neil Magny, Jeff Neal. But he did fight Neil Magny too, yeah. But Jeff Neal was, I think, a more impressive win. Still not like, high enough to say this guy's a top dog. But now that he faced against Shavkat and went to a very close decision, I would say, with Shavkat, I think he absolutely deserves to be in the top of the division. And yeah, I think he absolutely deserves another title shot in the near future, considering this was also fucking last minute, kind of. I guess he got probably like 3 weeks, maybe a month, I would say. I don't remember exactly when the announcement came in, but fuck, dude. I mean, Shavkat is a fucking monster, bro. And for Ian to not only take that fight, but only take it kind of short notice, that's fucking insane. And props to him. And like I said in my my likeness for him definitely went up a little bit more. I was not very fond of the guy before this, but after this, I have way more respect for him. Just the way he conducted himself the whole weekend. After the fight, not being a sore loser, and just completely going out there and accepting it, and just trying to learn from it and grow from it. I thought that was amazing. I really liked his press conference speech after, not speech, but what he was saying. Yeah, he admitted it that Shavkat, got the best of him that day. But he said that he'll absolutely go. He's gonna be back, be harder, train harder, and I think he said that he expects this fight to happen again in the future. He said also multiple times. So by him saying that, that kind of tells me that what he wants to do, or at least his plan, is to obviously get the win after, but then eventually have a trilogy. So, hey, I wouldn't mind that in the future. We get a little trilogy with these guys. Obviously, they're two of the best in that division. I'm very interested to see how Ian pairs up against some of the other top guys in the division, like a Kamaru Usman or like a Leon Edwards. I think that's will be a really good test if he wants to get back into that championship opportunity. He has to beat one of these guys that have been there and that are former champs and that are obviously been at the top of the division for a while. Like I said, someone like a Kamaru Usman or like a Leon Edwards would be really, really great. I think obviously for Shavkat, what's next is the title. That's 100% without a doubt. He's fighting for the title next. He squared up, matter of fact, against Bilal in the octagon. And I just find it hilarious, bro. I just find it so hilarious that my boy Bilal cannot catch a fucking break. You get Joe Rogan when Bilal is walking up to the cage. You get Joe Rogan saying security doesn't know who he is. Like, bro, oh my God, he just can't catch a break. I think it's funny, right? Respect for that guy. He's a fucking animal. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's entertaining or not, or whether you think he sells pay-per-views or not, he's a motherfucking monster, bro. The way he just completely shut down Leon Edwards' game plan, I thought that was fucking amazing. Who the fuck's done that before? Nobody. So I thought that was fucking great for him to show that, and he proved everybody wrong. Really. Again, whether you like him or not, or whether you think he's likable or not, or sells pay-per-views, that really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, he's a champ. He won the belt fair and square, and he's pretty dope. So shout out. So I'm excited for that fight. Hopefully it happens early 25. I would say maybe like March, April. I think that's what Shavkat said himself. Maybe like a March, April date would be dope. So yeah. Then we had a heavyweight fight. Some big boys fighting. Another fight that I thought was also weirdly almost like a number one contender fight. It's hard to tell because of the whole John Jones, Tom Aspinall thing. I'm not even going to talk about that right now. I've already talked about it in my previous episodes. But it's a nightmare, obviously. But I thought this was also, a very good opportunity for these guys to step in there into that situation and raise their hand and say, hey, I'm up next. This could potentially be a number one contender fight as well. I don't know if they treated it like that, kind of, if Dana White officially said that. I don't know. But that's the way I kind of saw it, And of course, we get a fucking controversial decision again, yet again. These judges sometimes just be, I don't know what the fuck they be doing, scoring these fights. I mean, it was a close fight, but I mean, if you look at some of these numbers, it's fucking insane. And I wasn't even scoring the fight. I was watching it and talking to people and having a drink and stuff like that. And I could still see that Volkov was the winner. And after the fight, Dana White went over to Volkov and told him the judges screwed you over. You should have won. That's so fucked, bro, because you have the CEO, the president of the company saying, no, you won that fight. Yet there's nothing he can do. He's probably the most powerful guy in the whole company, yet there's nothing he can do to fix that or to change the scorings or to change the judges. And honestly, what they should have done in this fight, which it would have been probably better, they could have said after this fight, hey, this judge is relieved from his duties tonight. That's what they did. I think it was either an Australia card or a London, where they were in the UK. I forget where it was. But, it was when Tai Tuivasa fought, whenever the fuck that was, or where. They scored that fight so horribly, at least one of the judges, that the UFC put an announcement shortly after that said, hey, this judge will not be working the rest of the night. They're gone. They should have done that for this one, bro, because I don't know. That was fucking insane. In my opinion, this is a straight up robbery. I don't like to throw that term easily. You know, I think a lot of the times we get fights that are very close and that are tough to judge, and they could go one way or another, pretty much a 50-50. This was not the case. This was an absolute robbery. I don't really know why they even gave it again. I mean, if you look at the actual stats, you have total strikes was 105 for Volkov versus 48 for Sirigan. More than double the striking, bro. More than double. Now, this is where it gets kind of hairy in the significant strikes. You get 39 for Volkov versus 43 for Gaines. So, you know, Volkov was absolutely doing more of like just kind of jabbing and you know, just kind of touching Gon. And Gon was probably going for more of those significant strikes. Where it's interesting is on the takedowns and the submission attempts. They're very close to each other as well. You have 2 takedowns for Sirigan out of 4 attempted, and 3 takedowns for Volkov out of 4 attempted. And then 2 submission attempts for Gon, and then one submission attempt for Volkov. I wasn't expecting much either from Gon's ground game, you know, from going back to that Ngannou fight and obviously also the Jon Jones fight. We know that this guy didn't really have a really good ground game overall, but I mean, he seemed all right, I guess. But Dana White said that it kind of came down, that the judges told them it came down to the second round and who won the second round. I'd have to go back and rewatch it and actually pay attention to it, but I don't know, just overall, the entire fight, I gave it to Volk. Maybe I think I gave it maybe 4-1, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I was kind of watching it, hanging out with friends, having a few drinks, so I wasn't really giving it my all undivided attention. But yeah, I thought it was a robbery. I thought Volkov absolutely should have won the fight. So, and yeah, if you go based on my theory that I treat this kind of like a number 1 contender fight, right? So now let's look at the things here. Now we have, again, what's going to happen with Jon Jones and with Tom Aspinall? Or is Sirigan going to step in there now and potentially fight either Tom Aspinall to unify the belt, which I absolutely do not think that's going to happen at all. Again, I've talked about the heavyweight division for a while now, but my official prediction will be that they're going to make him wait. They're going to make Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I think that eventually happens at some point. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, though. I think it's going to happen like within a year. Within a year, I think. 6 months to a year, for sure. So you're going to get a matter of having Tom Aspinall waiting, because there's absolutely no way they make him defend his interim title one more time against Sirigan. There's absolutely no fucking way, bro. And if they do that, that's actually embarrassing and disgraceful, because that's insane. If they make somebody defend his interim title, what, twice? Is that twice now or 3 times, I think? Let me see. I think it's just 3 times. Like, that would be absolutely fucking insane if they do that. So I hope they don't, but I think I think it's gonna happen. They're just gonna make him wait. Tom Aspinall fights Jon Jones sometime mid 2025, maybe late 2025. And then eventually we get Sirigan in there as well, going in there and fighting obviously the winner of that, because probably after that Jon Jones retires. So, or if he doesn't retire, if Jon Jones defeats Tom Aspinall, I don't think he retires. I think he relinquishes the belt, and I think he fights Alex Pereira after that. So, but I do not think we're gonna get Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones first. Absolutely not. I think Jon Jones defends his belt one more time against Tom, and that's my official prediction. And that's it. I'm not gonna talk about it because I've talked about it a lot in the past few episodes. You know, obviously with the Jon Jones fight coming up, it was obviously a topic of discussion. So yeah, I think that's what's happened. So Sirigan is back to the bench, or unless they make him fight somebody else again, especially after such a controversial win. Maybe the UFC is like, does this guy deserve this, right? I don't know. It could happen. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if now they look at him as a number 1 contender fight, and now they're just, waiting to see what happens. So next up, we had Bryce Mitchell versus Crone Gracie. I thought this was a very interesting fight. I really like Bryce Mitchell as a fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. I really like him. He was unfortunately, on a bit of a roller coaster there with his record. He lost against, Taporia, who obviously went on to be the champ. And then he also lost against Josh Emmett, getting knocked out pretty horribly. Getting knocked out and having a seizure in the middle of the octagon was pretty tough to watch. But luckily, he is back in the win column. I really like that for him. The question with Kron Gracie was, is he going to do what he did against, who was it? Charles Jourdain? Yeah, against Charles Jourdain, where everybody critiqued him for pretty much just pulling guard. And that's really all he did. He pretty much just pulled guard the whole fight, not wanting to utilize, the mixed martial arts aspect of fighting, obviously, and just wanted to use jiu-jitsu, which, hey, I mean, by all means, his last name is Gracie, bro. And if you don't know who the Gracies are, you should do some fucking research. But they're obviously the legendary family that pioneered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming out of Brazil, obviously. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting that last fight he just decided to just pull guard, and hopefully people were gonna meet him in the ground, and he could have submitted them. Which obviously, if you're fighting a Gracie, I think by all means one of your number one concerns should be to not go to the ground with them, make it a stand-up fight. So yeah, I was hoping that Kron wouldn't do that in this fight as well. Luckily, he didn't. He did look, like he had a better game plan for sure, more of a well-rounded approach. And they still ended up going to the ground. I mean, shout out to Bryce for really not being scared. He kind of said it like, it wasn't my plan to go down, but hey, it happened, and I let it happen, and that's where we went. Shout out to him. I mean, that's got some, that takes balls. Lord knows a lot of other fighters would have completely avoided that exchange right there going to the ground. So shout out to him. As far as what's next for Bryce, man, it's hard to tell, because he does have that loss against Taporia and against Emmett, and obviously a lot of those top contenders are, I think, a little bit ahead of his skill set and where he's supposed to be. I would be surprised if he gets another one, I would like to see him, let me say this, I would like to see him in the top 5 conversation, okay? But looking at some of these guys that are there, it's tough, I mean, you got obviously Max Holloway, who might move away, so that might, benefit Bryce Mitchell. He's going to lightweight, so that benefits everybody in the division to just go one more up, and you got Diego Lopez, who's obviously arguably the number one contender fight for that division right now. I think it makes sense. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing Bryce versus someone like a Brian Ortega, who's coming off a loss. Someone like a Yair Rodriguez. I don't know if they've already fought. Potentially they've fought, maybe. I'm not sure. I have to double check. But I think that's what's next for him. Someone in the top 6, top 7 kind of scenario, top 8, and then potentially get number one contender fight after that. That's all you got to do. Just keep winning. Win 2 in a row, 3 in a row, and you're going to be right there for that belt. So shout out to Bryce. Another fight that was interesting was Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. I thought it was hilarious, by the way, that John Jones had that tweet about his sons fighting, because obviously he defeated both of them. Hey man, Dominic Reyes, arguably the only guy to ever beat John Jones. Very, very close decision. And I thought it was interesting that ever since then, kind of fell off. Didn't really have any impressive wins. Got knocked out a bunch of times. And makes you wonder if that was kind of the end of him. Luckily, he's back in the win column against Anthony Smith, who's obviously no punk, but similar situation. Fought John Jones. And ever since then, he just hasn't been able to, really grasp a lot of wins in a row. He has more losses in a row than wins in a row. So it is tough. He did end up, taking the gloves off in the at the end of the fight. Obviously, gets finished round 2 KO, and he ends up taking his gloves off and retiring. Shea, salute my man. Shout out for an amazing career, and I wish him nothing but the best. I wish he would have probably. I wish he would have ended up more on a high note. That's all I'm gonna say. I think he deserves a little more. He's a guy that weirdly has like a big name, super popular, and obviously a legend in the UFC. So he's popular, I think, amongst the hardcore fans in the UFC. I think a lot of casuals might not know him that much, but he's obviously a huge name, huge fighter. But yeah, wish him nothing but the best, man. I'm kind of rambling right there. Again, I would wish that his career ended more on a high note, but that's the game, bro. That's the game. So shout out for Smith and shout out to Reyes for pulling up the dub. Then we have Vicente Luque getting a round one submission as well against Gorimbo. So shout out to Vicente. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this fight was supposed to be Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz, right? If I'm not mistaken, that was supposed to be the fight at first. Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. So I think Nick got injured or something happened. That's why he couldn't make it. And I think Gorimbo stepped up. And yeah, unfortunately getting finished in the very first round. Shout out to Vicente because he needed this win for sure. Obviously, he's a guy that also he's more on the older side and had a few losses. Not terrible, not as bad as some of these other guys, but had lost 3 out of his last 5. Not great. Coming off a loss against Joaquin Buckley before this. But yeah, luckily he did pull off this win. Number one round submission. And yeah, shout out to Vicente, man. I don't know exactly what's next for him. This is tough because, you don't know if he's going to keep moving up the queue or making a title run or what. I would assume that's what he wants, obviously fight somebody that's now ranked higher and potentially make a title run if he can, If he does, I wish him nothing but the absolute best, man. So shout out. Is he ranked? I don't think he's ranked, right? Oh yeah, he's ranked number 14. Wow. Number 14. I mean, I wouldn't mind him seeing someone in the top 10, someone like a Wonder Boy. Have they fought already? I want to say they did. Just both of them being veterans, there's absolutely no way they haven't fought. Right? They haven't? 2020, going back. Going back to 2018, 19, 17. They haven't fought. Wow. He fought Bilal Muhammad in 2016. Man, this guy's been... No, he hasn't fought... I mean, if this record is right, Oh, yeah, he did. Sorry. He did. I completely skipped past it. It was 2019. Oh, wow. Okay, well... I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that again. Two veteran guys in the UFC. Potentially could be a retirement fight. Who knows? But yeah, someone in the top 10 situation would be ideal. Who else do we got? We got Gilbert Burns. That might be good as well. Jeff Neal. Yeah, I mean, he's got a few options if he wants to keep going up that queue, going up that ladder. Definitely, he's got a few options, 100%. So, shout out to Vicente. Maybe he still wants that Nick Diaz fight. I don't know. We'll see. Then we had Aljamain Sterling against Movsar Evloev. I was excited for Sterling, man, because he was starting to get some momentum and some hype in this division. But I guess unfortunately he had that impressive win against Calvin Kattar. He looked fantastic. He looked dominant, and I just think it's kind of bullshit that they don't give him right away a potential either title shot or a potential number 1 contender fight, bro. Being the former champ that he is and had a pretty good run, at bantamweight. I don't know why they didn't give him more privilege and give him someone higher in that division, in featherweight. So I don't know. It's a little tough. I mean, Movsar was kind of ranked number 5. I think he was. Let me check. Yeah, he was ranked number 5. So I mean, that I guess never mind. I'm wrong. I guess that kind of makes sense. A number 5 fight, but again, I don't think this was a number 1 contender fight. I think he could have definitely jumped there and fought someone like a Diego Lopez. Going back to that, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But Aljo is currently ranked number 9 in that division, and yeah, I don't know. I think they made him kind of go through the fire again in this division. They made him go through another title run in this division where I don't think that would have happened to any other fighter. I think if Sean O'Malley right now decides to move up, or if I think they would give him a title shot, or let's say someone like Islam. Again, this is considering after they lose the belt, obviously. So Sean O'Malley lost the belt. I wouldn't be surprised if he calls out Ilya, and if they really won that fight, which I think he might have been calling before, but if they really won that fight, they would have made it. If let's say Islam loses the belt and he moves up to welterweight, I think he definitely gets a title shot right away. I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion. If not the title shot, at least a number one contender fight or an interim, depending, right? But I just think it's kind of bullshit that they made him fight Calvin Kattar first and then Evloev this Savage. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he deserves, maybe a higher shot. Who knows? But it is what it is. He ended up losing, unfortunately, so now he's even further from achieving, a belt or a title run in that division. So I guess we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, shout out to those guys. I was a little disappointed with Chris Weidman. I was really, really excited for him to get this dub, especially because this fight was also rescheduled. It was supposed to be, I think, in the John Jones card, right? I think. And it ended up not happening, unfortunately. But then we are here, and he ends up getting losing. I thought he was a really good though. He was a really good. Has some moments. I think he got a knockdown. Yes, he did have a knockdown. So I mean, at one point I thought he was about to get the dub, and unfortunately it didn't happen for him. He ended up getting KO'd in the second round. So, but hey, he looked decent. He looked really, really good. I think he just needs to get off some of that ring rust off, some of that octagon rust off, and make another run. And this is another similar situation to Vicente Luque. Like, what do you want to do now? Do you want to make another title run? Dana White did have a comment. Again, this is going back to what I said earlier about Kron Gracie. Dana White had a comment about, someone asked him about Weidman, Clay Guida, and Anthony Smith. And he said that they all three should retire tonight. Obviously, Anthony Smith did retire tonight. That was the only one. But I kind of agree, man. I mean, especially Chris Weidman getting KO'd like that. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to KO'd again. If you get KO'd one more time now, it's a problem, bro. It's a problem. And Clay Guida looked like he had some sort of arm injury. Chase Hooper, a fucking animal. I'm excited for that guy as well to get into the queue there and start having some more high-level fights. I'm excited for him for sure. But yeah, it looks like he had him on an armbar, and then Clay Guida did like a weird thing where he flipped, and then he flipped back, and you can tell that he just immediately, I don't know, something popped or stretched or pulled. I don't know what it was exactly, but he was pacing around the octagon in pain, and yeah, I just hope that he's okay and that he's able to recover soon. But I think that it's a little unfortunate. And again, guys like Clay Guida, like Chris Weidman, it hurts me to say it, but yeah, I mean, you don't want to see them get hurt at an older age, So take your money and run with it, man, and enjoy that retirement. That's what I would say for sure. Obviously, it's if a man wants to fight and prove his point, you gotta let him. So as long as they want to keep fighting, Dana White of the UFC should respect that, right? But there's also comes a point where like, okay, well, enough is enough. So yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much all for this card, man. We had a entertaining card overall. Really, really happy about it. I'm excited this weekend as well for Joaquin Buckley versus Colby Covington. I think that's going to be actually a pretty decent main event. I don't know who else is on the cards. Let me see. And it's to close out the year, by the way. Last fight of the year. Cub Swanson. Bruno Silva. Yeah, we have some good fights there. Yeah, I'll be watching for sure. Maverick is fighting as well. All right, well, some fights, we'll see. But at least the main card is going to be decent. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. Thank you guys for joining once again and staying and listening to me ramble and yap. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great one. Peace.